Hello everyone, today I want to talk to you about a number of things. One of them being the Kamala Harris interview that she just had with Fox and something that she was trying not to let people hear regarding their administration and the way they badly handled Iran and how that's related to what we are seeing on the news regarding Israel, Hamas, and other proxy groups. And I also wanted to talk a little bit more about Islam, specifically about a man's story named Mosab Hassan Yousef. His father is related to Hamas, and he shared a very sad experience that I want to show here and talk a little bit about and how that relates to some of the other things on my Twitter feed. So I want to talk about all these things. Okay, so for those of you who are new here, my name is Susan Morales and I make videos about Christianity and how that relates and just the ordinary things in life, how the Christian worldview shapes the way we think about things and our decisions that we make. I talk about Christian apologetics, but lately I've been talking about Islam. Very recently, actually. It's one of those things that on my channel, I'm somebody that likes to educate myself. I try to be educated by what God teaches us in His Word. That takes me to different places throughout my channel here, and one of the places that I am exploring right now is the religion of Islam because it is so very relevant to what's going on the news, and also because we are supposed to reach out to everyone in this world and share our faith with them, and that includes Muslims. And if you don't know anything about what they believe, then that can feel very intimidating. Take away that confidence that you could have otherwise if you were educated on it. So that's why I am bringing you to this other topic. You probably already know about the topic, but maybe you are like me and you are just getting to learn some of these things. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is the Kamala Harris interview, just because it just happened yesterday, and I think it's hilarious and it's frustrating, and it's like I can't wait for the election to be done. But it was kind of nice to see how Kamala Harris was sitting on the hot seat pretty much. Very unlike the things that I saw last election season, which was during COVID. Remember those days? Remember how Biden would not go out, but he would stay and just do a lot of video interviews. And even then, they were very edited, very, he wouldn't talk to just anyone, as far as I remember. And it was very interesting to see how it went from Biden being the nominee to Kamala Harris. And I thought they decided to go with that strategy with Biden because of his age, because of the things that he said that are inappropriate. So they wanted to reel him in and just stay in control of the PR. But it's very interesting to see that it seems that they were using the same strategy with Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris. I thought that she was just going to bring things back to normal and she was going to talk to just anybody. She was going to be very open with reporters. And then it isn't until recently that I think this might be one of her first interviews that she agrees to do with someone that is not going to vote for her, that is not going to be giving her softball questions. The thing that makes me feel like, oh my goodness, this is so delicious, this is so wonderful that I get to see her in this situation, is just because how would you feel as an American, especially someone that did not vote for Biden? How would you feel just seeing, you accept it, this is my president, this is my vice president, but not just, oh my goodness, look at all the laws, the policies that they're pushing right? But their approach to reporters as well, the way that they would laugh at how reporters were trying to ask Biden questions, or just the thing that I'm seeing, it's almost like, and I know I'm biased, so you can call me out on that in the comments if you want, but to me, it seems like Kamala Harris is kind of like this princess type of elite kind of, she gives me that impression. I've really been struggling to figure out, like, who is this person, you know? It's been hard for me. So the things that I've observed, especially in this interview, was kind of like this, I'm not going to let you like lead this interview. I'm going to talk as long as I want. You know, I just want to be able to say everything I want. Like if it was a debate, you get your 2 minutes to answer a question or whatever. And this is an interview. This is completely different. You follow the lead of the person that is interviewing, especially if you are on their time and this is going to be on their channel. So you just kind of have to roll with it. If you didn't get to finish your answer, you just wait for the interview person to interrupt you, and then before you answer their question, you go ahead and say, let me just finish what I was saying and then I'll answer your question. That's how I think she would have done much better on this interview if she would have taken that approach. However, I think what's going on is that she wants to come across domineering. She wants to come across as someone that has control over the room, in the room. That just didn't translate too well, in my opinion. I think a lot of voters don't want that. They want to see respect, mutual respect. They want peace. They want tranquility. They want someone that demonstrates self-control over emotions, and that they will do that on the world politics as well. If in the event that she were to become the president, replace this interview guy and put like one of the worst world leaders in the world, like how would you manage someone way worse? And is this going to be the way you deal with it? There was a situation where, I'm going to show you this clip, where she was completely talking over the interviewing person. And I think I know why, because it was completely devastating to her. So she could not let people hear him speaking. And I will show you what she didn't want people to see. They showed it on the screen, so I'm going there. You can find me on X or Twitter at Mrs. Susan Morales.
That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, 2 more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
So that was an interview with Kamala Harris telling us, you know, she's someone that is in the behind the scenes leading our government, the United States of America. And based on the information, I don't know how limited it is for a vice president compared to a president, but if she was completely informed about the situation, the real threats, then she said Iran is our major threat. And so here comes, what was his name? His name is Brett Bayer, I think. So this is what he says.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, in the several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel, I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
I'm pausing it there. So far, she's saying the right thing, and I'm glad, because Israel and the United States are allies. It's great to promote the well-being of Israel. A large amount of Americans have this Christian worldview, and every time we're reading our Bible, we're reading the history of Israel and the founder of Israel, God. So there's a special interest in a lot of our hearts. I speak for myself. When we hear about Israel, we want our country to do our part, whatever that may be, whatever appropriate, measure that might be. We want to support Israel. Here she's saying the right thing. She's saying that's where we stand. She starts off by saying, in response to, your critics are saying that if you really believe that Iran is the biggest threat to our country, your critics are saying, how come you're not acting like it? And her response is saying, I was in the room when, during significant moments, I was in the room. I guess what she's trying to imply is that I was having conversations with the leaders. I was influencing. She didn't really say that. She just said, I'm in the room. What comes to my mind is well, you were not in the room recently when the Prime Minister of Israel came and gave his speech. Why wasn't Kamala Harris in the room where she was supposed to be? Because it is her current job to be there and to preside over that speech. I'm going to share what was going on so you can fact check her and really see if you can trust what she's saying. I'm going to read from CNN. Harris to skip Netanyahu's speech to Congress but plans separate meeting. This was Monday, July 22. Updated. So Vice President Kamala Harris declined to preside over Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress on Wednesday, a source familiar with the matter told CNN. The decision to skip the joint meeting underscores the tense relationship between the Biden administration with Netanyahu at a time when the war in Gaza has caused growing backlash from the left. An aide to the vice president said the two world leaders will meet separately later this week. Harris's aide cited a previously scheduled event as the reason for missing the speech Wednesday. So what was more important than Kamala Harris doing her job? A date for the Netanyahu-Harris meeting has not been announced, but it will be separate from President Joe Biden's planned meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister. And I went to see if she did follow up and did meet with him separately. And I'll read to you the White House statement after. The closely watched bilateral will mark Harris's first meeting with a world leader since Biden stepped aside from his re-election campaign and endorsed Harris's candidacy. I mean, if she's thinking about her campaign, which she is, she could have used this opportunity as, I was in the room also when Netanyahu came and gave his speech. That shows it's a demonstration, a visual demonstration to everyone, to America, to the left, to the right, to Israel. This is a person that is supposedly a potential future president. This isn't just a vice president. This is a representative of the United States at this point, to a larger degree than just, vice president. This is like potential future U.S. President and where the U.S. stands or would stand when it came to Israel. And she chose to be somewhere else. So Harris is expected to continue her intensive engagement on the conflict in Gaza, the aide said, noting that she is expected to underscore a commitment to ensuring Israel can defend itself, condemn Hamas's attack on October 7, and reiterate concerns about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. So those are the talking points that she gave in the interview as well. We anticipate the vice president will convey her view that it is time for the war to end in a way where Israel is secure, all hostages are released. Yeah, that would be good. The suffering of Palestinian civilians in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can enjoy their right to dignity, freedom, and self-determination, according to the aide. And they will discuss efforts to reach agreement on the ceasefire deal. I mean, you would think that she would add the end of Hamas, the end of the Hamas brainwashing of the Palestinian people or whatever. On Wednesday, Harris is set to address Zeta, I don't know how to say this, Phi Beta sororities Grand Bowl in Indianapolis for a moderated conversation, an effort to engage Black women voters. I'm pretty sure that Black women voters are probably already are on your side, and that they would be more than happy to reschedule because they want to support how important this being present in Israel's prime minister's speech is. The situation, they would understand, right? Her travel to Indianapolis on July 24 should not be interpreted as a change in her position with regard to Israel, the aide said. I just feel like you're lying to me at this point. Don't insult my intelligence by trying to lie to me. I respect you more if you just tell me Kamala Harris is not on friendly terms, is not in agreement with Israel right at the moment, and so she will be skipping. And she prefers to have a separate meeting because she is not in favor of the way Israel is conducting itself. But, that would mean that she would lose support from people that are definitely advocating for Israel's safety. And so she's trying not to lose the people that are all about the whole free Palestine on the left. And who knows what she actually thinks too. Maybe she believes like they do about how the whole Israel being oppressors. I don't know. Honestly, I think it's just a political game. I think she's an expert at playing the political game, and it's nothing more than a game, a power game to her. That's the impression she has given me. I'm someone that can be persuaded. If she does the right thing, I can oh, okay. Kind of like when the whole, the attack on Israeli civilians first happened a year ago, I was not happy with our President Biden, but the way that he came across, very clear where the United States is aligned, I thought, yes, he did the right thing. And I will always give him credit for that moment. Later on, not the same Biden, but let me read to you what happened. Here we have the White House statement. Read out of Vice President Harris's meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel. Vice President Kamala Harris today met with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel at the White House. The Vice President reiterated her long-standing and unwavering commitment to the security of the State of Israel and the people of Israel. They discussed the Biden-Harris administration's work to ensure Israel can defend itself from threats from Iran and Iranian-backed terrorist groups. So this is the White House. The White House is telling us Americans that there are countries, there are groups of people that are jeopardizing Israel's safety. They list them here: Iran, And not just Iran, but Iran is backing other terrorist groups. That's what they mean by proxy groups, including Hamas, Lebanese Hezbollah, or Hezbollah, however you say that, and the Houthis, and the importance of combating the rise of anti-Semitism globally. The vice president again condemned Hamas as a brutal terrorist organization, as well as individuals associating with Hamas, noting that pro-Hamas graffiti and rhetoric is abhorrent and must not be tolerated. Good. That's like the bare minimum. I'm glad to see this written. Now, you saying it and the way you act are completely different things, right? And that's where we're going to continue the interview right now. The Vice President and the Prime Minister Netanyahu discussed developments in Gaza and the ongoing negotiations on the ceasefire and hostage release. The Vice President echoed President Biden in expressing the need to close the remaining gaps, finalize the deal as soon as possible, bring the hostages home, and reach a durable end to the war in Gaza. And so it's kind of like one of those things where you have a problem and a bunch of outside people are telling you, you need to solve your problem. Stop this problem from being in your life. And yet, they just walk out that door and they don't understand the complexity of what they're talking about, how awful you feel in the situation, and they offer no solutions. And that's exactly, it's very annoying to hear a lot of the American rhetoric regarding this issue. And when wow, if the United States really wanted to help them, they could have, and this whole two sides thing isn't really helping. I'm not saying to be okay with anything bad that actually happens to innocent people that are not in favor of terrorism, because I think that if you are civilians but yet you are in favor and you are doing your part to promote this government, then I think you deserve to suffer the consequences of the leaders that you have chosen and that you support. And if there was an election, you would still put these same people there. So it's like, hey, you chose your leaders, you chose the consequences that your leaders put you in. I think that's fair. That doesn't mean, that Israel should do evil things, which from what I've followed along, Israel is doing their best to not do bad things to innocent people. Putting it very simply, there are a lot of things. Like one, for example, before they are going to attack or like bomb a building because they're the really bad guys are in there, to put it simply. They give warnings, and from what I've heard, they even call people, and there have been situations where they call certain people, like in an apartment building or something, and they plead with these people, hey, tell as many people as you can to get out of there. And I've heard that they've dropped like papers telling them, and they've even told people, go over here while we're doing this, and then so they've provided a lot of humanitarian aid, more possibly than is even necessary. And the real problem for why people are they say that people are starving in some of these areas is because Hamas, they are stealing the humanitarian aid from their own people. So you have to stop blaming Israel at a certain point. It's just so dishonest. The one thing I don't respect and I don't like is for politicians to lie to me, blatantly lie to me. It's disgusting. I would rather you hold to your evil views, but be honest about it. But obviously people that hold to evil views are also going to hold evil values, and honesty is not going to be one of them. The Vice President expressed concern regarding civilian casualties and discussed the need to alleviate the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The Vice President also expressed her concern about actions that undermine stability and security in the West Bank, such as extremist settler violence and settlement expansion. See, that the last words in this statement. That gives me a hint, like there's something else going on that we are not aware of, and she is not being completely open about her views on Israel. Let's go here, continue this.
Right.
And that
But those
is,
proxies were getting funded by
my
Iran.
commitment to that.
Okay, so I need to repeat what he's saying because she didn't want people to hear him. Let me sit differently so I'm a little more comfortable. Hold on. All right, here we go. So he says, those are proxy groups from Iran.
Is unyielding and unwavering.
She just wanted to finish her statement that her support is unyielding and unwavering. Like, really? The end, especially the end, I think I understand. Like, I've been trying to understand, who is this Kamala person? My impression is she is one of those people that in real life, they are not interested in hearing you. They are not interested in you. They are not interested in learning your thoughts, your concerns, your criticism, your constructive criticism. And they only want to be heard. And they will disrespect you. And they will talk over you. And you will be shocked. You will be shocked. Like sometimes you come across certain people and you're just shocked because it's so counter how you are and how you would treat that person. So that is my impression of her. It's like, oh, she's one of those people. So here we go.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Here she goes. She's like, let's go back to Donald Trump. There's a scene in the movie Liar, Liar. He's a lawyer that cannot lie. He's defending just a really difficult client to defend without lying. And so the judge asks him, what's your reason? And he's like, because it's devastating to my case. And in the same sense, she did that. He's bringing up something that she, as a public servant in the United States of America, a democracy, as she's going to say, she must answer to the people. She must answer this question. She must take accountability for her actions and say the bare minimum, like reassure people, as president, I would do this differently. And if you're not, then you're kind of telling us that you're okay with what was done and that the same can be expected. I mean, yeah, that's speculation, that's an assumption, but that's just how it is. Like, when you are appalled by something, you're going to own it. Again, values, right? No values, apparently. Okay, maybe values are power.
Who pulled out of a deal.
So here is a screenshot that it says Iran oil revenue estimates in billions, and it has the estimates in billions for the years 2021 all the way to 2024. I'm pretty sure she can see it because she's been able to watch the videos that he would play on this interview. So I'm pretty sure that she saw this and she's like, well, let's go back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump. I'm very confident that the whole strategy, her team, herself, they felt very confident that they can do well in an interview at Fox, because she would just turn it around to Donald Trump, And so here we go.
It would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump.
Okay, before we try to listen to her, he is saying this. She didn't want you to hear this. If Iran is truly a threat to America, Why were you soft on the sanctions? Why didn't you enforce? Why didn't you make it harder for Iran to do very well financially through their oil? So why are your actions not the same as your words? And why did your actions enrich our greatest threat, who did such a devastating thing to Israel? And now we find ourselves supporting this war with Israel. We have this problem in the Middle East, and we could have done something about it while you were vice president. And she's not answering that question. Instead, she wants your attention off of her and Biden, and she wants your attention on, well, Donald Trump. That's the thing that annoys me. The whole interview, I was so annoyed until I started to find it entertaining, because she started to just her emotions got the best of her. She did not remain composed, and it's quite, I don't know, funny to me. Yeah, let's see what she says.
That
Administration
go towards
that
the Iran.
And they're both talking. And usually, when I do interviews, the interviewing person is in charge. Like, sure, if you're talking, I have something to say, but I choose, do I interrupt them because I want the interview to go this way? Or, you know what, I'm just going to let them finish their thought. But at some point I have to step in, and you're kind of talking too much. I kind of don't do that. I do let people talk because for my reasons. But this person was on a very, very short amount of time schedule. And she seemed to think that she was in charge of the interview. So they both are talking. When you're being interviewed and the person interviewing starts talking, hint, hint, oh, let me stop talking. And instead, she talks over him. And it's funny because he's trying to ask her a question, and she is still trying to talk about Trump. And they both kind of pause on the word Iran. I think that was the word, right? And then he's very clever because he had to maneuver this situation.
Regime.
That we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention
Madam
how
Vice
Donald
President,
Trump has,
all of this money
has treated
that
and
has
talked
gone
about
in the
America's
past few
military.
She wants to talk about, and I don't believe them. I honestly, I do not believe their, anti-Trump propaganda. I'm not saying the man is perfect. I'm not saying the man is even I don't know what to say. Trump is another person that I'm like, how do you define this person? But I do believe Trump over Kamala, especially because during debates, if you have a somewhat fair moderator, you get to hear the charges against them, and you get to hear specifically Trump, or the vice president choice for Trump, explain what the actual context was and where they actually stand. So when I hear Kamala say things about Trump like this, I'm like, oh, okay, they must have found a certain thing and they decided to spin it, and they're just parroting it, So honestly, I'm not interested in hearing what he said. I'm more interested in hearing what you have to say about yourself when you are still and have been in office as the vice president.
Military and military service people
Critics
calling
say
them
that it goes to
suckers and
Hezbollah,
losers
Hamas,
has diminished
and
the
Houthis.
significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I love how he did this. We're talking over each other, and he apologized. So smart. The men that I have come to respect a lot in the political arena are gentlemen that are smart, and you just can't lose If you're firm, you're smart, and then you don't lose your cool, and you still come across as a humble, respectful person. And he did that.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
She's filibustering when you just talk to like take up time and reach the end of the interview and not have to answer the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision
and there are critics
that they feel
who look at what the administration did and say and think differently.
And he's like, and there are people that think differently than what you are sharing here. I mean, it continues, like the last minute, still like, oh my goodness. But that's what I wanted to show you, that actions speak louder than words. If we just judge by actions, Kamala Harris is not going to manage the Middle East well. We are going to move on to the next topic, which was another interview I saw recently with Jordan Peterson and the son of the Hamas leader. I'm going to look him up right now so I can explain a little better. Okay, so Mosab Hassan Yousef, according to Wikipedia, he is an ex-Palestinian militant who defected to Israel in 1997, thereafter working as an Israeli spy for the Shin Bet until he moved to the United States in 2007. His father is Sheikh Hassan Yousef, a co-founder of Hamas. And he is a New York Times bestselling author and known for his outspoken criticisms of Hamas and Islam. The Shin Bet considered Yousef to be Israel's most valuable source within the Hamas leadership. The information he supplied allowed Israel to successfully thwart dozens of Palestinian suicide attacks and prevent the assassinations of many Israelis, exposed numerous Hamas cells, and assisted Israeli authorities in hunting down Palestinian militants. His efforts also culminated in the incarceration of his father, who had served as a leading figure for Hamas operations from the West Bank. Okay. Oh, and he has a autobiography, which I would love to read, titled Son of Hamas. No, look at this. I did not know that, and I was curious. I was wondering, because I'm telling you, like, if you hold to certain values, they line up with the worldview. And the worldview that he was sounding was Christian. So it says, in 1999, Yousef converted to Christianity from Islam, but did not disclose this fact to the public until 2008, triggering fears that his family members in Ramallah would become targets for religious persecution. In 2007, he left the West Bank and moved to the United States, where he applied for political asylum and had his request granted by American authorities in 2010, following Shin Bet handler Gonen Ben Isaac testifying on his behalf. Yousef has compared Islam to Nazism and said he has zero respect for anyone who identifies as Muslim. On the interview, I heard him say he does not trust anyone that identifies as Muslim. I recommend that interview. I'll leave it in the description below so you can understand why he's coming from where he's coming from. Palestinian students and community leaders at university campuses have accused him of Islamophobia, and his speeches have attracted protests. I've seen him personally in a lot of interviews, and sounds smart, sounds like a gentleman, like I was telling you guys. Let me go up again. Okay, sorry. So now let's go to that video. I shared the link on my Twitter But here it is. So let me find the exact spot.
Let's go back to when you were 13. I want to pick up the thread of that story. Okay, so you're seeing all this catastrophe, this chaos that you described that redounds to the benefit of the con men who are running the show, for example, and that is there to delegitimize Israel and the United States, and to redound to the credit, let's say, of the Iranians operating in the background. You're seeing all the consequences of this firsthand. You decide that for a variety of complicated reasons, you decide that you're going to face your fear of death. You have this graveyard next. You're going there to investigate and to experiment. What was the consequence of doing that for you? And then how does that tie in with your transformation of worldview over time?
When I was very young, and this is stuff I don't like to talk about because I choose not to be a victim. And also I don't like to become vulnerable because people think that you are weak. Stuff that I don't have to talk about, but I think there is no way around it. Because many people ask, what motivates you and where are you coming from? When I was very, very young, I was raised in a culture that would kill the rapist, but also they would kill the victim. So I never told anybody about that story. I never got any support. And
how old were you?
I was 5 or 6 years old when that happened. Now, I had to heal on my own, and it was a hell of a journey in a society that did not have mercy, that they preferred that I would disappear so I don't bring shame on them.
Right.
And I witnessed so many women being killed after being raped, that the father would prefer to kill his daughter to bury the shame with her, not to have to face the society that his daughter was raped. What type of mentality is this? What type of religion is this? And this is not just a culture. Okay.
Does it reflect on his inability to protect her? Is that the source of the shame?
No, it's his status.
It's his status.
It's the father of, he could not protect his daughter.
Yeah.
And now maybe the daughter is pregnant. This was before abortion, etc. Okay, the daughter is pregnant. What is he going to do with the child? No, he prefers to kill the daughter. He does not want to go even to the degree that his grandchild is a result of a incident. So, and from the 7th century in Islam or in Arabia, they killed infants. So when I say sacrificing children, this is not coincidental. It's rooted in that culture. So for me, it was unjust that I had to actually carry the burden instead of getting the support from the family, from the society, like at least to come and say, who did it? Today I'm 45 years old, I'm a very strong man. I can confront the whole universe if necessary. And up to now, none of them asked the question, who did it? And by the way, I had the power to kill the predator down the road. He's probably living in a nightmare. Why I didn't actually harm him? Because later on, I got lots of power, even when I was back in the territory, but I chose not to. Instead of going after the rapist, I went after the belief system. And this is where I need to create the change.
I see.
So what's so-called Islam, and I know this is very sensitive topic. If the belief system, if Allah thinks that the rapist and the raped are equal and they deserve the same punishment, then this God does not have authority over my life. And this is where I start questioning the entire belief system, and I rebelled.
Don't you just want to like hug like him, like when he was like a little boy, like help him somehow? This is why it's so important for us to not just treat all religions as if they have the same impact in the world, all worldviews included, you know, because just because you don't hold to a religious worldview doesn't mean that like your lack of God worldview isn't going to have negative impacts in the real world also. So you have to realize that different worldviews, different religions offer different solutions, different explanations, different values. And the ones that we are hearing about, starting to learn about, they're very serious. And that's why I've been starting to share on this topic. So I just wanted to share this because it's interesting that this is his motivation. This is what got him motivated into exposing the Islamic mentality, the worldview. I'm really grateful for him. I'm very glad that he went down this path. I think definitely God was helping him along the way to make good choices, protecting him, helping him not to go down the path that he said he had the opportunity to attempt to get some type of revenge over the person that harmed him, and he didn't. I think he's a very good example for a lot of people, especially the people that are also struggling with these uncomfortable thoughts, uncomfortable feelings about I'm not sure about living for a God that puts the evildoer and the victim on the same level as far as consequences, punishments are involved. And then I'm going to skim through my X feed. I do want to let you know also that it's very relevant for you to learn about Islam and what Muslims believe, because we are not exempt from the consequences of such a religion, of such a worldview, like becoming dominant in the world. Christianity is very, very a part of Muslims, Islam, how they respond, how they think. We are very relevant to them. I've shared an interview recently with Mark Dury. You can go check that out and learn more about what they believe and how that's different in contrast to what Christianity teaches. But here I want to read this that I reposted to show you like how this could have impacted Christians around the time of World War II. But also, like, if we were to see a rise in this anti-Semitism and anti-Christianity, just kind of make it a little more relatable to you. So here we go. This is posted by Mark Rowley, and he wrote, Adolf Hitler was one of the most evil men who ever lived. He hated Christianity but often used its language to achieve his political goals, which, you know, we see this in our own politicians as well. All of a sudden they start talking about Christianity, like if that was what they actually believe and live by. Once he was firmly in power, the gloves came off and the plan was to completely annihilate the church in Germany after the final victory of the Nazis, which thankfully never came. But while he hated Christianity, Hitler did like one religion in particular, so much so that he wished ancient Germans had converted to it rather to Christianity. What religion was it? Islam. This is attested to by several sources who were very close to Hitler. The following account comes from Albert Speer, who was arguably Hitler's best friend, to the extent Hitler had friends at all. He was Hitler's favorite architect before the war and helped him design the gargantuan structures that would become the new capital, a totally redesigned Berlin of the Nazi Empire, Germania, or Germania, I don't know. From this, Speer recorded Hitler's conclusion. Hitler usually concluded this historical speculation about Germans becoming Muslims by remarking, "You see, it's been our misfortune to have the wrong religion. Why didn't we have the religion of the Japanese, who regard sacrifice for the fatherland as the highest good? The Mohammedan religion too would have been much more compatible to us than Christianity. Why did it have to be Christianity with its meekness and flabbiness? Speer likewise recorded Hitler's plans for the church. Once I have settled my other problems, Hitler, occasionally declared, I'll have my reckoning with the church. I'll have it reeling on the ropes. Yeah, it was Hitler's greatest inconvenience, Christianity. It was totally incompatible to what he was doing and how he was going after people. It inconvenienced the worldview he was trying to spread, that we were not all created in the image of God, that we are not all equal. He wanted to say that certain people were more valuable than others. And darn it, God got in his way. It was harder to manipulate people who believed the Christian worldview. And that is why I dare say that the Christian worldview is definitely the best one for our world. Not to mention that as a Christian, I believe it's the only true one, and that we have a lot of good reasons to believe that it is true. That's what I wanted to share with you. And one last thing on a positive note, Israel has now confirmed that the IDF has killed Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar in a Gaza strike. And there are pictures. You could see the evidence, but Israel was slower than other people that were announcing, that this had happened. So it wasn't until recently that they officially said that, yeah, this is the case. And so another defeat for Hamas. True.